Good morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. So, what did most of the world do yesterday? Well, they pored over that Avengers Age of Ultron trailer frame by frame. Yes, thanks to today's technology, anyone, even a mere babe, can go through a trailer frame by frame. And of course, Marvel is aware of this and put in quite a few Easter eggs for just even the most casual a fan to discover. And I think the one that seems to have intrigued people the most is, what's Andy Serkis doing in there? In fact, when I watched the trailer and I saw that quick shot of him initially, I was like, that guy looks familiar, who is that? And only on second viewing did I realize it was Andy Serkis, because he looks really good here. Andy Serkis, of course, we're used to seeing him only in his eyes, because he does motion capture for almost all of his roles these days. But when he has appeared on screen personally, he's usually, disheveled, a real rough and tumble kind of guy. And here, he looked very Indiana Jones-like, very clean cut. And that's a very different look for him, and I think it works on him. He looks great, which is a little disappointing considering the theory of who he is. Now, of course, he has quite the distinct facial hair in this film, and it's because of that facial hair that everyone is convinced he's playing a very obscure Marvel villain, Ulysses Klaw. And I think that with the facial hair as evidence being so unique, one has to agree that this theory is most likely true. Now, why did everybody get excited about that? Not because they're all excited to see Ulysses Klaw finally brought to life on the silver screen, but because Ulysses Klaw is part of the origin story, a vital part of the origin story for T'Challa, who becomes, of course, Black Panther. Now, there are a couple of ways this ties into Avengers Age of Ultron that make sense. One, Ulysses Klaw also has his run-in in his comic book history with Ultron, so it makes sense that he'd be included here. Also, something that's a big part of Wakandan history is that it's a source for vibranium, one of the few places on the earth that you can get it, which is what Captain America's shield is made of. And people are also making a big deal about the fact that the shield is broken towards the end of the trailer. So, is it a repair job? Maybe Ultron wants to get his hands on vibranium for his new look. All these things could come into play. And then, of course, maybe we'll see T'Challa, even pre-Black Panther form at least, in the mix. So let's discuss this from two angles. One, if this is a good use of Andy Serkis, and two, if this is a good introduction to Black Panther in an Avengers movie. All right, so let's start out with Andy Serkis. As I said, he looks great here. He looks the best I've ever seen him in the flesh on screen. So I'm a little disappointed that this isn't going to last, because Ulysses Klaw turns into a being of living sound, which allows him to create different shapes. It kind of works his way toward it, but eventually he doesn't look human anymore. So that means, of course, they're using Andy Serkis to do a motion capture job eventually down the line after he establishes the character himself in the flesh. And I would love to see Andy Serkis get a chance to play a flesh and blood character that stays that way. And we've discussed this before. I think he'd make a great Doctor Strange. He doesn't seem to be in the running, and it looks like he's cast as someone else. Doctor Strange does have facial hair, but it's a goatee. He does not have that weird beard. So I don't think he's going to be playing Doctor Strange, unfortunately. But Doctor Strange would be a great choice for Serkis. As you can see from this trailer, he looks cool. He's capable of looking really cool. And also, with all the astral forms and all the magic, you could totally let Andy Serkis do some motion capture in that regard, and then go back to being a flesh and blood character at the end of the day, and between those cool action sequences that are, astral in nature. But that's not going to happen, because he's going to turn into this being of living sound, which I have to say doesn't sound like a villain that has a lot of staying power beyond establishing Black Panther. Maybe he's going to be the villain that Black Panther will fight in his movie, but that doesn't sound like something I think non-comic book fans can get behind. If they're like, he's a being of living sound, I think a lot of viewers would go, well, doesn't Black Panther, isn't that Wakanda in Africa? That's a weird science villain to have in Africa, although Wakanda is a very advanced scientific country, as you're clearly soon going to find out. But I think there are more organic villains to take on that I think are a little more interesting. I guess if you go the angle of explorer, ravaging the land that's not even his, I guess that could come into play. And if they're going to introduce Wakanda as a very advanced civilization in terms of technology, but then there's going to be a real struggle to differentiate it from Asgard, which is, I guess, the Nordic version of Wakanda, right? A lot of interesting things going on at play here. Maybe Wakanda can be an Asgardian outpost And Idris Elba can be like, I'm not actually Heimdall, I'm T'Challa. And that would make everybody so happy, but I don't think that's going to happen as well. So Andy Serkis, I feel bad he's going to go into motion capture eventually. It can't be denied. And I think he isn't really a villain that is going to be that memorable or that sticks around for a really long time. So Serkis continues, I think, his most memorable role to be Caesar in these Apes movies. And he's very good at it, so it's not like a horrible fate. But I would have liked to have seen him get a little bit more of an opportunity here. All right, so let's look at the Black Panther angle to introduce him maybe in an origin-like way in Avengers Age of Ultron. Now, there's a rumor going around that he's going to show up potentially on Captain America's team. And I think that would have been great. I would have loved just a tease at the end being like, oh, look who it is. But it looks like the introduction to these new members might be a little more organic like that, such as this thing with, Ulysses Klaw introducing T'Challa and therefore Black Panther. But there's another rumor floating around the internet that you might recall that shot when Ultron is first coming out and they're all on that balcony having, and all the Avengers stand up and they're like, what? Well, eagle-eyed fans have noted that there are 3 women on the balcony. Maria Hill, Black Widow, but who's the third? Now, some have said it might be Jane Foster, but there's a very intriguing theory that it's Carol Danvers. If so, she'd be a brunette here. Carol Danvers is supposed to be a blonde, so I would not be happy about that. As you might recall from my many discussions about Amy Adams' Lois Lane, hair color is important to the personality of these characters. But if that's Carol Danvers, it would make sense, because you know who else is in that scene? James Rhodes, who of course is in the Air Force like Carol Danvers. So people are hypothesizing that it's James Rhodes, or Rhodey, who introduces Carol Danvers to the Avengers. Maybe she gets caught in some kind of weird crossfire and she becomes Captain Marvel. That's an interesting idea, but then what does that say about Rhodey? Does Rhodey only exist in the Avengers Age of Ultron to introduce another white character to the group? And that brings up the point of diversity. There are a lot of small, non-white characters, small roles in Avengers Age of Ultron. There's Falcon's supposed to we're hoping, well actually, he might show up, but he's really supposed to be in Captain America 3. Then you saw Nick Fury is going to make a cameo, at least, and be there. And then you have Rhodey trying to get in there, people thought maybe he'd suit up as War Machine. And then now, of course, Black Panther. These are all very small roles that, don't have a lot to do. Wouldn't it be great if there was just one non-white character who had a lot to do, and the Vision does not count, who, by the way, as we've all noted, is not in this trailer, which is very interesting and which will tie into today's viewer question. So I'm curious to what you think of the way, this idea of introducing Black Panther, so organically in Avengers Age of Ultron. Do you like a slow build to these characters joining the Avengers, or would you prefer just a surprise at the end? It's a different way to go for Marvel, the hinting. Mostly they've saved their hints for the after credit sequences, so we'll see. And also, do you think this is a good use of Andy Serkis? Write your thoughts down below. Now, speaking of big, amazing trailers, well, Warner Brothers has never seen Marvel get a headline that they haven't wanted to have themselves. So rumor surfaced yesterday that they have a Batman v Superman teaser trailer ready to go, and it will hit theaters later this year. Before the year is out, yes, you'll probably see, my guess would be, that Comic-Con footage with Batman and Superman facing off on the rooftop. I think that makes sense. The movie still, of course, is not out until 2016, but they need to keep reminding people that it exists. And they already have that footage from Comic-Con, so why not show it? Although the rumor is that the overall teaser goes a little beyond that, and it's Batman heavy. Although one could argue the Comic-Con footage was Batman heavy because he, turns on the bat signal and he looks up in the sky, and then you just see Superman for a shorter period of time looking down at him, and then his eyes glow red, and Batman's like, I'm not impressed, and the crowd went wild. And audiences go wild. And, the idea is this might play in front of The Hobbit, the final chapter, Battle of the Five Armies, because they're both Warner Brothers pictures. And of course, that would be a great match for the material, especially considering that The Hobbit is ending. Lord of the Rings, the franchise, was conceivably for the time being, nothing ever truly dies in Hollywood, just like in the comics, but it's taking a substantial breather. So why not throw that fan base into Batman v Superman, that and Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them being the next big things on Warner Brothers Horizon. That's what they want to get people excited about. So that's what they're really pushing very hard. So what do you think? Is it too early to show a Batman v Superman teaser, or do you want to see that Comic-Con footage? And are they better to hold off, or do they need to stay in the mix considering the headlines that Marvel is making? I mean, Warner Brothers has made quite a few headlines of their own, but people are a little more reserved, as we've discussed, because they're like, I'll believe it when I see it. So do you want to see a Batman v Superman teaser trailer? Very interesting theory, and I have to say for myself, I'd like to see it. Everybody saw it at Comic-Con. We saw the stills. It looked very cool, and I would like to start to get an idea of Ben Affleck's Batman. What a perfect time to introduce him, as he's hot off of Gone Girl. All right, now speaking of Gotham, let's discuss the Gotham Award nominations, which came out yesterday and begin to show where the Oscars are potentially headed. Now, the Gotham Awards are for independent film, so all the big studio pictures that are hoping to compete for the Oscars don't count. So that's why you're not seeing them in the mix here. For instance, Unbroken, you don't see that here. Imitation Game must be a studio picture because that's a big contender. So you're seeing what's really in the small specialty market. So keep that in mind when you go over these nominations. And a lot of times, only one or two of the films from the Gotham Awards move up to the Oscars. For instance, Beast from the Southern Wild, Dallas Buyers Club, these were big Gotham contenders, and of course, at least Dallas Buyers Club did quite well at the Oscars. And as you might recall, Beast of the Southern Wild stole that directing nomination from Ben Affleck back for Argo. So these are very, they are coming into play when we're starting to think of what's going to happen at the Oscars later on down the road. So let's go over these Gotham Award nominations. All right, so Best Picture, very interesting. Birdman, Boyhood, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Love is Strange, and Under the Skin. I think there are a lot of fans who are going to be excited about a number of these choices. Pretty much everything but Love is Strange. And I think actually Love is Strange is the least likely to go beyond the Gotham Awards. That's the John Lithgow. I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on this guy's name. Alfred Molina. Alfred Molina, you need to work more. And they play a gay couple who get married, and the repercussions of that in New York, no less, of what it does to their lives, because there's still some prejudice against that. And also, it's just a look at their relationship. So it's had a strong buzz in the indie community, but it's never gone beyond that. So I don't see it going much further than the Gotham Awards. And I think not even probably winning. But the nomination is really nice for that film. But it was really surprising. I mean, Birdman, it's great to see it getting, its momentum materializing. Boyhood, I think everybody knew that Boyhood and Grand Budapest Hotel were going to be strong contenders this year. But Under the Skin is a very pleasant surprise, I'm sure, for a number of fans. Now, as I've said, I don't want to watch naked Scarlett Johansson dip guys in black goo. But maybe I'm going to have to if it continues to do so well with the awards season. And that's really great for Scarlett Johansson. Has she had a great year or what? With that and Lucy, she's done such a good job, and I think it's been a prime example of someone who's been able to build on her Avengers success, her Marvel success. Robert Downey Jr. hasn't even been able to do it, and to give her new opportunities for her career. And so I really applaud that. And her work has really made me a much bigger Scarlett Johansson fan. So I'm very excited for her, and you're going to see she has an actress nomination here as well for Under the Skin. So then for the Breakthrough Director Award, this is what The Beast of the Southern Wild took and what led to a nomination for the Oscars. You have Justin Simien for Dear White People. Interestingly, the only nomination for this movie. Justin Simien is getting all the credit. He's the only one getting any recognition. He got a special award also over at Sundance. And as you saw from my review, it's because I think the film's actually not that good, but people like the conversation it's starting, at least, and the headline it makes, and that it's a clever idea from a publicity point of view. So I think that's why Justin Simien is getting attention. You'll see that his film doesn't get a lot of attention because he didn't do that great a job with it. It was a great idea. The execution of that idea is poor. I would actually say poor. Then Dan Gilroy, Tony Gilroy's brother. Tony Gilroy's behind the Bourne movies, but Dan Gilroy for Nightcrawler. So that's very exciting. But not a lot of love for Nightcrawler either, beyond that Breakthrough Director Award nomination. Then for actor, this gets very interesting. Bill Hader for Skeleton Twins. I totally would agree with that. I thought Skeleton Twins was a really nice, small, but interesting film, and I think Bill Hader's role in particular was very nice, and it was a great example of a gay character who was not just there to be the gay character. He was really well fleshed out and explored in many different ways beyond his sexuality. So great character, really well played by Bill Hader. Then Ethan Hawke for Boyhood. Oscar Isaac for A Most Violent Year. That's wonderful, but then also, since A Most Violent Year is obviously in contention here, why not a Best Picture nomination? I don't think that bodes well for the film in the long run. Then Michael Keaton for Birdman, and Miles Teller for Whiplash. Very, very exciting. You don't see J.K. Simmons anywhere here, but I think Miles Teller does deserve a nomination, although I do not think he would, of course, win. The competition is just too strong. I'm so excited to see Michael Keaton here. And the Boyhood, very popular at the Gotham Awards, and I think that will give it a lot of momentum going into the Oscars. Then for actress, Patricia Arquette for Boyhood. Gugu Mbatha-Raw for Beyond the Lights. I think that's a very interesting nomination. I don't see that going anywhere. Maybe the Golden Globes, but I think that film's too commercial for the Oscars, and I don't think it's dark enough for the Oscars to take a film about a pop star into consideration. Julianne Moore for Still Alice. She has a lot of heat for that movie. It's kind of blocked out Maps to the Stars, and also Maps to the Stars hasn't really been running an Oscar or an awards campaign, so luckily she has Still Alice to get her back in the mix. Then Scarlett Johansson for Under the Skin. Everyone, as I said, is going to be very excited about that. That's really a big deal for her career. And then Mia Wasikowska for Tracks. That's a little scene film. Didn't really get a lot of play. Adam Driver co-stars with her there. So I don't see her winning, but the nomination, again, just like for Love is Strange, it's a nice little recognition for that film that really didn't go anywhere with critics or the box office. Then Eller Coltrane, Breakthrough Actor Award for Boyhood, just so you know he didn't get left out. So very, very, very interesting lineup. I'm so happy to see Birdman and Grand Budapest Hotel in there. I'm not a fan of Boyhood. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it. I thought it was a little too gimmicky. But it was certainly very interesting, and I know it has a very strong fan base, and same with Under the Skin. So I'm curious to what you think of how these awards are shaping up, the award season is shaping up, and also, are you happy that some of your favorites really are getting the recognition that you were hoping for? So, great. Also, Grand Budapest Hotel, now that I think about it, no actor nominations. So that's an interesting thing as well. You would think Ralph Fiennes would be in there for sure, but I guess Oscar Isaac or Bill Hader, booted him out. But we'll see. I think the Academy is going to be a lot more favorable towards his performance. So he's not out. He's not out yet. He's down, but he's not out. All right, let's head over to the viewer question. This is from Philip Niblet, and Philip says, "Hi Grace, question. With the recent news about Marvel planning a Civil War story, do you think some characters such as the Winter Soldier and Baron von Strucker could get forgotten? What do you think, and also, how could Marvel prevent this from happening?" Well, yes, I think this is a great question and a great time to discuss it, because I think, is the Marvel Cinematic Universe perhaps now expanding too rapidly? For instance, we just talked about Ulysses Klaw and how he's a very minor villain in the comics, and does he really have a chance of establishing a strong presence on the silver screen? And also, we discussed the Vision. Where's the Vision in the trailer? There are so many characters in this movie that you could have a major one like the Vision, and he doesn't even make it into the trailer. I mean, it's not like they're trying to hide him. He was in the Comic-Con group poster, the puzzle you have to put together, and he was Paul Bettany actually was on the panel. So where is the character? It's weird not to have a single shot of him, but yet you throw in a shot of Ulysses Klaw. I guess it's to signal the coming of Black Panther. But interesting choice on Marvel's part, and they're going to have to make more and more choices like that. Baron von Strucker, he's obviously instrumental in the making of Pietro and Wanda as Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch, but then at the same time, Baron von Strucker signed a multi-picture deal. So he's not going to go away, but he's going to be, I think, a very, very small overall arcing character in these movies. Kind of like Ulysses Klaw maybe, and also they both have very interesting, distinct looks. It's like, why do all of our heroes look pretty normal, but our villains look so weird? It's Marvel still continues to have a hard time with their villains, although I have very high hopes for Ultron. So you've got that problem. Winter Soldier, though, I agree. Where's he going to go? Especially with Iron Man having such a big role in Captain America 3. To the point where he's co-starring. And then also Mandarin. Where's Mandarin? They made a big deal of trying to fix some of the things that Shane Black did with All Hail the King, that Marvel short. But so where is that, going forward? What are they going to do with the Mandarin organization? The idea that they're upset that Ben Kingsley pretended to be their leader. Where are they going to factor in? That just seems to have fallen by the wayside. Klaw, again, where is that character? And I think that what you might see in Marvel preventing this from happening is a stronger use of television. They're really getting very aggressively into the television space, of course, with their Netflix deal. But they also have Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where Coulson went. I miss Coulson in the movies, but he's gone. And then also Peggy Carter, a.k.a. Agent Carter, is getting her own show. So that's a way to spin off her character and keep her getting some attention. So TV might be a way to handle this spillover. It makes you wonder, would Winter Soldier be better served on a television show? Sebastian Stan, of course, is largely a television actor, and maybe, something about his activities with the KGB, kind of like a Cold War kind of show, like The Americans maybe could be interesting, or just what he's doing now after he was freed by his old buddy Steve Rogers. I think there's some interesting ways to go with it, and maybe that would be a better use of the Winter Soldier. But I'm just curious to what you guys think. Do you think the Marvel Universe is expanding too rapidly? Do you think TV is a good solution to keeping some of these lesser characters in the spotlight? And do you think that Marvel, instead of trying to throw in a lot of Easter eggs and, fan service, they'd be better off just kind of developing the characters that they have? I think that's a problem that we've had with some of the work that DC has done. Fox as well. They're very guilty, and especially in the X-Men movies, of just throwing characters in there and then leaving them behind. Would you like to see maybe Marvel not make that mistake? They haven't to date, I don't think so much, but let's see what happens going forward. All right, that's today's morning movie news. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please write down below what you think of today's top 3 stories and the viewer question, anything you'd like us to cover on Monday, and any questions that you might have. Thanks for watching. Bye.